Welcome to the business show that will change the way you look at your business practice, your organization, and yourself. This is Let's Get Radical with Jody Padar. On today's show, you'll get the straight scoop on what it means to be radical and how it can help you become the next success story. Now, here's your host, Jody Padar.
Welcome back. I'm Jody Padar, and you're listening to Let's Get Radical, and we are live today at the AICPA Engage event at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, and it's pretty cool here. I have to give a really special thank you and shout out to First Global for sponsoring our interviews all day today. They've been a phenomenal team working with us and just making sure that we had lots of cool people to interview and talk to, because they've really made today's shows like work, right? And then also I have to give an extra special shout out to the Voice America team, Ryan and Robert and Kaylee, who are making sure that everyone can see this live on Facebook, as well as listen to us on the Voice America channel. But we have more interviews, right? More stuff is going on today. We're not done. And Ryan George is joining me again
I'm back.
as a co-host. And then we have two guests we're going to interview today, and they are husband and wife, Kevin and Debbie Edwards, and they run a firm. And I'm going to let you introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your firm.
Okay, well, I think I'll get started. Women first, correct? Yes. All right. The firm, it was established in 1960, almost 60 years ago, by my mother.
Awesome.
So think about that. 1960, a woman starting a firm. Now that's radical.
That is radical.
That is radical. So in the mid-'80s, she was looking for someone to join the firm. From a family of CPAs. I was just at the right time, so I came back home. It worked for Kevin and I to move back to the area and joined the firm. My mom retired at 80. And
Age 80.
At the age of 80. I'm sorry, at the age of 80, correct. And then I brought in another partner. But anyway, there's two CPA partners. We're both financial advisors. Kevin heads up the wealth management side of the practice. We have 3 other professionals and 2 support staff. We're a small firm in Belleville, Illinois, which is in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
Cool.
So that's
So-
us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Kevin, as Debbie said. I was in the insurance business. I had a insurance financial advisory firm, and it felt like when I was there that if I could relate this to a toolbox, I had a toolbox with like 3 tools in it, trying to fit that to whatever the client's needs were. So they had to go with what I had versus giving them what they really needed. Mm-hmm. Had the opportunity to come over and join up with Debbie. Debbie and I talked about this for many years in our life, about trying to be a team, because we felt like we were a good team. And timing was right, and I was able to sell my practice, come over, and we've been a team since 2009.
Cool. And so how has wealth management changed your practice from a CPA perspective, right?
Oh, you talk to CPAs and, they just kind of get stuck in their world, right? We go through one tax season after another, one audit period after another, and you wonder, how much longer am I going to do that? When we discovered the opportunity to bring wealth management in, First Global became a wonderful partner. It just changed our lives. We don't even think about retiring. We love it. The difference that you make, everybody says, I want to make a difference in this world. We make a difference in our clients' lives. And to me, that's making a difference in this world. And so it's really energizing. And
absolutely.
I can't even think about retiring.
No retirements. Our clients can retire. We'll help them do that.
Yeah.
So are most of your customers, were they CPA customers first, and then you've brought them to the wealth management side, or have you developed both sides of your business?
I would say the majority of our clients are definitely from the CPA accounting side. We've been very fortunate to get referrals from outside the CPA firm So when you say develop the business, certainly it's certainly a lot heavier to the tax side, accounting side, but we are developing both sides to some extent, yes.
Okay. And what do you think has really contributed to your success?
You want me to take that? Okay. It's interesting, the success side, because I was listening to another First Global advisor earlier talk about how it was hard to get traction the first few years. And it was the same for us. It seemed like about 5 years went by, and we weren't exactly where we thought we were going to be in 5 years. And First Global has and I've heard it talked about on other podcasts called a WIN team. And there was not a WIN team in our geographic area, in the St. Louis area. So if we were going to join, we had to travel. And we befriended some advisors from the Carolinas WIN team that meets in Charlotte, North Carolina, and made the trek out there, checked them out. They invited us to join, and we decided to, commit to the time, commit to the expense of those travels. And it was the best decision we ever made, because the experience that we gained networking with other advisors, getting educational content every time really made a difference.
Can I jump in a little bit about that and just explain sort of what the WIN program is? So the WIN is the Wealth Instruction and Networking Program. So it really is focused on two things. One is the education, so making sure that the CPA advisors are taught best practices and are aware of different products and are continuing to get that education on a continual basis. But I think the second and most important part is putting them in a network of like-minded CPAs that they can tap into with questions and tap into figuring out what the best practice is and what works and what doesn't. I think that has really helped drive your success, and I think that's, if you look back at the success stories of a lot of our firms, it's really tapping into that CPA community and having people that you can model yourself after and what worked for them and what didn't.
Mm-hmm. So really the peer network that was provided?
Absolutely. And, once you gain, it's hard to gain experience, right? Experience
Absolutely.
takes time. But once you gain that experience, and that helped us, and you get the knowledge and the confidence, and you just start having better client conversations and better client meetings, and they are catching that too, and it's taken off from that point for sure.
Yes. We as CPAs, we've been doing financial planning since the beginning of our careers, right?
Right.
It's just we never took it to implementation. Mm-hmm. And it was that part that really gives you now that full, complete, comprehensive, I just want to say satisfaction of what you do for your clients, because you start, we have clients that when we start engaging with them, they're so focused on the investment side. When we talk about the financial plan, they think that that's what financial planners do, right? They just take your money and they do something with it and they hope it grows, right? Well, there's so much more to that. And we'll have clients that, we're in our third, fourth meeting and they're like, well, aren't you ever going to take our money? And we're like, well, we will once we learn your life plan, and then we'll know what to do with that money. And so it's this whole different experience that we have with our clients, and sometimes it's getting the clients accustomed to a different way of working with a financial advisor, and it's that core of the CPA, I think, that really sets us apart.
Right, and I think, too, it's the impact that you actually have on their lives, right? Because you're actually helping them make their decisions, and to me, that's the cool stuff, right?
It is, and it's amazing how many people really haven't had that conversation, even with spouses, haven't had that conversation about, what is our plan for 5 years, 10 years, retirement, and get them to start thinking about that and helping them come to whatever that plan is for them. It's very rewarding, very rewarding.
Right. So as far as your, going through this journey of joining, and becoming a financial planner, if you wanted to go back and start over, what would you do differently?
Wow.
Yeah, obviously, I just wish I could have started with 5 or 10 years of experience. Right? That would have been a lot easier.
That's the easy answer.
That would have been. Getting to the confidence level quicker, somehow, some way. Whether we would have been involved with the WIN team sooner, or Maybe even if we would have had a little bit a different expectation going in, because early on we were a lot like Debbie just described, where people would come in and we'd start talking about the investments right away, and that's not really the way that we like to engage. It's really talking about the clients, their lives, their plans, their goals, their risk, right. And we can start addressing those, and then the investments just fall into place.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't say anything different.
Yeah, and I don't want to gloss over the point of them taking control of their own education and their own path of the firm, and then finding a spot where they can find what they need. I think that that's something that we hope all of our firms take advantage of, educational programs and other consulting engagements we have, because it really, that proactiveness is really what spurs growth, and you guys are still, feeling the effect of that today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so if you were to talk to next-gen CPAs, what would you tell them about getting into financial planning?
Do it soon. No, do it now.
Yesterday.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you waiting on? Right. It's, I think it is, especially in our firm, Debbie and Dave. I mean, it was a big step for them to go and to cross over into that area. And then Debbie might want to address that more. So I actually kind of think for the next generation that it actually might be easier than...
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because I think the thought of, we grew up in a stage with my mother and I, that was part of it is we had been asked several times to bring financial services into the practice, and then it was like, two shall not become one. Now that I have done this, I'm like, how could we never have done that? I mean, we should have done it years and years ago. Licensing prevented it for a while, but, once we could, to me, it makes every sense. And I think earlier someone said, will the big firms, like, your big wirehouses, will they one day just have this staff of CPAs on file because they know is that the way?
It's quite possible. Mm-hmm. So what do you think was the turning point or the last sort of stone to fall in place that really drove you towards adding the service line?
What did it? Well, it's a funny story. My mother was always like a trailblazer, and she always wanted to do something or figure out and change, okay? Well, one day I saw a flyer about the future CPA firm. So I said, hey, Kevin, come with me, and let's go see what the firm's supposed to look like in the future. And we did. We met First Global, and within 2 months we were...
licensed and going.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's a
good
great
marketing.
Yeah, that's a great story. So anyway, we're in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
So the big question is, what have you done in Vegas, or what are you going to do in Vegas that's going to be the highlight?
Well, first of all, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Okay.
Well, this evening, actually, right after this interview, we are going to go meet with some really good friends back home. Their daughter is at another conference in town, and we're going to make a connection with her for a couple hours, and then we're going to do the Top Golf. We did that last year. It was great.
And Kevin beat the pro last year, so we're going to see if he can beat him this year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you guys for sharing your story on Let's Get Radical, because I think it really is inspiring. And stay tuned, because we'll be back with more interviews.